welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host for the next 30 minutes. And as you have come to know about this program, is we do our best to try to feature, whether it's the political season and featuring candidates who are running for office, to maybe there's an event that's going on, or some of the folks that are within your community in the towns of Whitman and Hanson. Today happens to be one of those days that we have a special guest. Joining us is none other than Whitman Police Chief Scott Benton. Chief,
Kevin,
welcome to the show.
thank you for having me.
I got to thank you so much for being here. I think the last time we had you here was a very proud moment when you had just finished up with the FBI Academy.
Yes, yep.
And at that time, you didn't have all the stars that you have on your collar, I believe.
No, I didn't. Yeah, we've added a star.
Yeah, and you are now the chief. I want to say it's a little more than 2 years now since you've been sworn in.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
What's that been? What has it been? What has the journey been like for you?
It has. It was a surprise. I mean, I don't think it wasn't something that I had anticipated happening. Obviously, Chief May Stafford at the time was a lot younger than me, and as deputy chief, I was fine with that. She was great to work for. Good person, good friend. I just didn't see it coming. So the opportunity is a great opportunity. Don't get me wrong. I'm certainly not going to run away from it. And I appreciate it. I had her support. Still had to pass, the assessment center and all that. And here I am. So I'm happy about it, I can tell you that. Something that I think everybody aspires to when you first join any department. I mean, I was an auxiliary back in 1986.
Wow.
So if you would have told me back then I'd wind up here, I probably would have looked forward to it. But as the years go by, you just don't know what's going to happen. So.
And you're somebody who comes from. Your dad was a police officer.
In Brockton, an uncle in East Bridgewater.
What's in the family?
It's a family disease, I guess.
But you serve with honor, and you definitely enjoy what you do.
Yeah, I do. It's a different, you go through different phases in your career. I've done a lot of different things, held a lot of different positions, and I guess this is, kind of when you come to the end, hopefully it all works out. And this is a nice, I was ready for this. It's nice.
What was it like? Because it was a big to-do. I believe that there was a special ceremony held in the auditorium where normally it's town meeting floor or where elections are held.
Yep.
What was that like to have your family and friends there, being able to see you, in retrospect, get the badge pinned on you?
Yeah, it was, it was unique in the sense that you had two things going on. You had the chief and the deputy chief were both at the same time,
Correct.
Which was nice. So for Tim Hanlon and I, who's the deputy chief, it was nice to kind of have a little different location for that, where more family and friends could gather. My dad, pinned the badge on me, which I think he was more excited than I was, which is nice. He's your dad, and it's a proud moment. Having my family, obviously my wife and my children there, was important. But I had some other relatives who came, as well as friends that came from. I had one friend that came from New York, from NYPD. He came down especially just for the ceremony, so that was nice too. It was a great time.
And you mentioned Deputy Chief Tim Hanlon. I mean, what was it like? You two, I think, at one particular time when early on, before Chief May Stafford was picked, you two were kind of in the running to be provisional, and here you both now are, several years later, where you're kind of the 1-2 punch of the Whitman Police Department.
Yeah, it's funny how how things go. It just shows you just never know what's going to happen in life. I mean, we went for the provisional post of chief, and then we were actually competitors for the permanent deputy chief's position. And then lo and behold, now here we are, together. And I'm fortunate. Tim is a great guy, and he does a great job. So, I think we work well together. We also have the benefit too of having, now it's Lieutenant May Stafford, but who better to have as one of your lieutenants than somebody who was a chief? There's a lot of insight there. That part of it has been very rewarding because you're still working with those people and all the men and women on the department. I mean, it's a good department that has some really great people in positions that this being a chief is about a round peg in a round hole. That's really all it is. If you can figure that part of it out, it makes your job a lot easier.
It's more you've gone from being the out there arresting the bad guys or investigating a crime to being the guy who is the administrator of who's going to be on what shifts or who's overseeing certain shifts to even how the department spends its money.
Yeah, I mean those.
What's that like?
Well, it's nice to have the final say. I tried to do when I was a sergeant, if there was something that wasn't right, I tried to fix it if I didn't think it was fair. There's this pattern of almost like an institutional thought that, well, that's how we're going to do it. It wasn't fair to this guy, but we're going to keep doing it to the junior guy every time. And I think you make those changes. One of the changes that I made was the auxiliaries now wear a dark blue shirt as opposed to a light blue shirt, and there's two reasons for that. One, I think that, and I know that it happened. You'd go on a call and people would look at them and say, "Well, you're not really a policeman. I'm going to talk to this person over here." So that's almost like we're supposed to be a team. We are a gang. We're the good guys. So it's almost like you can play the field, but you can't bat. So by changing the uniform and putting them in a dark blue shirt, it does say you are on the team. You are part of the team. And I think that it looks much more impressive when you look out and you see just a sea of dark blue, and there is no division because those people wear the same gun and put on a badge and a bullet-resistant vest just like anybody else. And bad guys don't distinguish at that point when they're committing a crime. Well, I'll shoot this person, but I won't shoot that person. So I think you have to, from the leadership standpoint, you have to say we are all on the same page, and you do matter, and you do count, and this is the way we're going to move forward.
Is that something that also helps with morale? Because depending on what the thought process is at the top, can sometimes have an effect on some of the guys in the rank and file.
Yeah, I do think that the full-time officers have been very accepting of it because I think that they realize too that without the auxiliaries, a lot of the functions that happen in town and also the coverage of shifts and stuff for them will not happen without the auxiliaries there. So they are an integral part of the police department. And we're up to like 24 people on the auxiliary unit. So yeah, I think it does clearly send a message that we're all unified, and and that's an important message because it's transmitted to the community just by the mere sight and presence of the officers out there.
What's it like being the guy you talk about having final say? I've seen many a town meeting in this town, and depending on the folks who are in the audience and depending on whatever the article is, you either can get a passive crowd that'll all say aye, or you'll have folks that are in the audience that are ready to ask questions for an hour to 2 hours because they want insight into what's going on. What's that like to be the guy that has to get up there and explain certain parts of your budget or your line items?
Well, I think it's easy in the sense that it's like when you testify in court. The truth is the truth. As long as you have your facts together, they are what they are. You go out and you present it to the people. One of the things that I asked for this year was money for tasers. and it's an important tool as policing evolves. That is, you get the pepper spray and the overspray and the decontamination and everything. And even if you were to get sprayed, you can still come at the person. If you have a knife, if you have a weapon, you can still swing it. You can still come at the person. When you get hit with a taser, you're not going to swing that bat or try to thrust that knife into anybody or squeeze the trigger of a gun. So it cuts down on officer injuries and it cuts down on suspect injuries. And I understand, the thought, of course, if you ask the average person, they think of the electric chair and electrocution, but that's not what it is.
Right.
It immobilizes the person. Everything is, you're 100% accountable. There's a microchip inside the taser. If an officer says, I only tased them once, and you download the data and it says, they were given 5-second rides on that, well, that's 25 seconds worth of shock. So it's not 5. So if you do that, you're accountable.
Right.
By the same token, if the bad guy says, your guy, he zapped me 4 or 5 times. Well, no, he didn't. He zapped you once. So at town meeting, I think you have to have your facts together because I think the people do have a right to an explanation, and you're accountable for that. Sure. I understand that's where I'm accountable.
People sometimes can be passionate. I think probably the most memorable moment that had something to do with the line item for the police department was during Chief Maystaffer's tenure, when the folks from the school who were there for the schools were passionate, and they're like, they're worried about where every dollar was going, and I think they were questioning the motorcycles. Yeah. And one young lady got up there and was like, "Why don't you use bicycles? For in case an emergency goes." And Christy Maystaff was like, without missing a beat, "Really, a bicycle to respond to an emergency? Think about it." And things kind of moved on smoothly after that. But town meeting can be very interesting. So I just wanted to get your take on that particular thing. How about as far as some of the promotions in the department? How have you seen some of the men from the ranks rising to sergeant or? Yeah. I think you even filled another lieutenant's position.
Yeah, we did. Dan Conley's now a lieutenant. I think Dan's been on the department for, I want to say, maybe like 6 years. He's been a rising star. Squared away, he does a good job. He follows up, he follows through. He was provisional lieutenant, so I had the opportunity to be able to see how he would do, and he did it. He did a good job. He earned his promotion, and also we just made 2 sergeants, Matt Keneally and Dave Gregory, were promoted to sergeant, and I think anytime there's growth, it's a good thing because people want to advance. You don't climb a mountain and then sit down and say, "That was great, I'm good." Yeah. You're looking for the next mountain. You should be looking for it. Where is it? Right. And so it's good when people can grow like that because it sends a message to the other people that, hey, I have a chance to do this stuff too. So it's always good when you're promoting people or hiring people. And that's what we'll be doing next. We'll be filling some slots, and we're still down a couple of people. We have a couple of people out, but things are good, and we're moving forward. So,
how about the new building? I mean, we're looking at coming up on a little more than 3 years for the new building. I mean, it's got to be kind of like a new shoe that you've kind of slowly worn in. What's it been like? Seeing that you were in that's the smaller building behind the town hall, and now you're in the top offices there. What's it like?
Well, I would have to say we literally went from the outhouse to the penthouse. I don't think there's any question of that. I mean, people would come in and see the old place, and they're like, "You're basically in a cellar. Right? You're in a basement here." The new building is it's like any building. We've had a few issues with the HVAC and some other things.
But work the bugs out.
That part's difficult. I think that part's going to happen no matter what. But to have that building state of the art, in the old building we had 6 cells and I think 4 were condemned. I mean, it's night and day. And that has been probably one of the biggest morale boosters for the men and women is having that building. It's nice. It allows you to do your work much more efficiently. You have a report writing room. You have a roll call room. You have space to sit down and bring somebody in and interview them, talk to them. It's in equipment. We've made some equipment upgrades. We upgraded. We went to 45s from 40s. Glock 45s. We just got tasers. We're going to be trained in the tasers probably within the next week or two. We just took delivery on them. So, between a new building and moving forward and making some changes in equipment and stuff, things are good. And I think that for me personally, being in that building, having spent a lot of time on the other end of the town hall, yeah, that is a home run all by itself. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Talk to me about as far as, I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed in policing, whether it's Whitman, a lot of communities, is the involvement that you have with those that you're helping out, and that is the involvement. Talk to me under your regime what it's like as far as expanding that community involvement.
Well, yeah, so we have there's a Rad Kids program that we have instructors. They interact with the school kids. They teach them, how to defend themselves, different tactics, stranger things. So, and we have a strong bond with the school, with Officer Harrington. Kevin Harrington does a great job.
Is he still your DARE officer?
He is still the DARE officer, yeah, and he does a great job. And he goes to virtually almost every school thing, whether it's a dance or an open house or whatever it is, he's involved. We've also have a seniors RAD program, and we have gone in and met with the seniors and had coffee with them and talked, and I've brought different members of the department over that have different functions to talk to them, because people do have questions, and it's not easy to necessarily grab an officer off the street and say, hey, I have a question for you. But when you're there, they can then feel free to ask questions, and some of them, it's like anything. Quality of life issues come up about parking, speeding, things like that. And then our partnership with the community as far as, different events that go on. A lot of fundraising events that people do and stuff.
Sure.
We provide, police coverage for that. That's not something that we charge the people for. So, and that's again where the auxiliaries come in, and then full time is, we'll always, try to have that balance, and I pay them out of my budget. So. Do
you feel that these programs go a long way towards any time that they may see an ongoing crime, or if you need help in investigating, they feel that they can go to the police anytime that they see something, and that there is a bond there between the community and the department?
Yeah, I think that you have to forge that partnership. I do believe that we have knocked down a lot of barriers with the community, and I think that most feel that they can. I think they're very comfortable with communicating with us, and that we'll be there. And social media has helped a lot there too. So, yeah, but it's something that you constantly have to do. You just can't say, okay, we did this today, that's it, we're good.
Right.
It's something that you're
on it.
Constantly reassessing and reevaluating and making modifications to, and just based on things that come up, in the course of, you take the Newtown, Connecticut thing, and then they're going to do a candlelight vigil here.
Right.
That was something that, was thrown together, but we provided police coverage. You have to work with people. You have to adapt.
Talking about gun issues, it's a heck of a segue, but recently, this past legislative session, the state has passed some stricter gun laws. Give me your thought as a chief, how that helps your department and helps police forces all over the Commonwealth deal with gun violence, and at least the policing part of it.
Yeah, guns are always a hot topic. People's Second Amendment rights. People get very passionate about their rights. As far as the department here goes, we issue firearms permits. We're not, unless you have a disqualifier, there's a reason. We're going to issue the gun license to you. Some of the changes in the law. Well, probably the biggest change was that it allows the chief to have discretion when issuing an FID card, which prior to that, there was no discretion. You just had to issue it. So you were saying, I'm not going to give you your license to carry, but you can carry a shotgun or a rifle. It made no sense.
Right.
So that was probably the biggest change. Other changes that have come out of it are waiting for checks, federal checks, background checks and things like that. It also weighs into the ability for a person. I think there was a 5-year to do with if you were checked into treatment for alcoholism or something like that, you can then apply. So it's changed some of that stuff where people maybe were shut out before. But probably the biggest, well, to me anyway, one of the best changes was that discretion given to the chiefs for FID cards.
Do you feel that what the state did might circumvent anything that the federal level might look to do down the road? Because I know that the federal government has talked about having more enforcement, and we look what's going on with healthcare, and there's a lot of hand wringing about, should federal government be involved with making sure everybody's getting it, or should the individual states? Do you feel that there might be further laws coming down the pipe on the federal side of things?
Yeah, I think the federal government always, I'm sure they're looking at things. It's just obviously on a higher level.
Sure.
Do I think that the state of Massachusetts does a good job? Yeah, I do. I don't think that we would be impacted that much, only because I think we've already addressed many of the issues that, you can't go into a store and plunk down $50 and buy a handgun,
right.
Like you can in some other states. So, I think that we have pretty good gun controls in place.
What do you find the most the challenging things that your department is dealing with these days under your watch? Is it the drug epidemic that we're seeing all over the South Shore, that just like the Brocktons and the Abingtons and the Plymouths and the Braintrees, you're dealing with crimes that are involving people who are addicted?
Yeah, absolutely. We just 2 days ago we had an overdose death. I think the opiate epidemic is, I don't think anybody could have predicted it.
Right.
It's terrible. It's as the different stories that you hear, many of them, you'll hear, well, the person was working, they got hurt at work, and the next thing you know, they're given a painkiller, and then the next thing you know, boom, they're addicted, and here we go.
Right.
The younger kids, and I want to say younger, meaning probably somewhere around 30 and under, unfortunately, it's an expensive thing. The pills are expensive. They might start out with a pill,
right,
but then a nickel bag of heroin.
Transition.
And that's when you have the tragedy that sets in, and that's why now, the Narcan, the nasal Narcan, Whitman Fire and Rescue, even when I was on the street, saved many people that I observed firsthand, which is amazing. And then you'll get the people, which is it's really sad, because people, I understand people's frustration, and I do agree that this addiction drives B&Es,
yeah,
motor vehicle B&Es, home invasions, robberies. It absolutely does. But, to just say, well, you have people that just have no sympathy, and they're like, well, let them die, or that'll clean. That's just one person down, and there's 1,000 left.
Right.
You have to try to fix the person. And I always say to people, how would you want another chance to try to help your loved one? And of course you would.
So what's your thought? You have a prosecutor, you have somebody who works on the cases for the police department. There's conversation that we're going to see more and more drug courts in the state. What's your thought on that? Is that something that's good, or is that something that is going to be taxing on the police departments? Because that's kind of a separate to what we would normally see in a court of law.
No, I think that a drug court specifically geared towards addressing those issues, because I think these minimum mandatories are no good. Nonviolent drug type things. I mean, we're clogging the system up with these people, and it's not helping anybody. I think if you can get help for the people, you can put them in a real treatment program, that they have to complete, and if they don't, then they go. I think you have to give people the opportunity to correct whatever the behavior is that they're dealing with before we just go throwing them in a jail cell. Because that's, number one, they're in the jail cell, so you're not really addressing the issue.
Correct.
And number two, now they're a liability to the state. So.
Well, I got to tell you, time has flown. We just got a couple of moments left. I want to thank you again for being my guest and talking about your latest evolution, being the chief now for a little more than 2 years. I know that the police department is big on social media. Is it just strictly Facebook right now, or is there more?
Well, there's Facebook that we have now. You can also go to the website, and you can do tips and things like that. We are planning on going to Twitter down the road. So we're ever expanding. The town is very fortunate to have Josh McNeil as the IT director.
Does a great job. Newtown website is fantastic.
Yeah, that guy is one of a kind. Yep. He really is. We're very fortunate to have him. So, he's constantly tweaking things too. So, we're pressing forward that way. But I'm amazed at social media. I really am.
Anything you want to say in closing before we say goodbye to the folks who are watching?
No, just we're open 24 hours a day. So if there's any, but on a serious note, if there's anything, radar trailers, you're interested in the training room. People book the training room all the time to use for their different organizations and stuff. Feel free to reach out to us.
Chief, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin, for having me.
You got it. And that's another Crosstalk right here on Whitman Hits Community Access. Until next time, have a great day.